the silence of a perfect Saturday morning, the kind where the coffee is dark and the air smells like fresh-cut pine, was violently severed by a frantic, high-pitched thwack. I dropped my mug. Did that really just happen? I stood on my back porch, watching the unsettling sight of Brenda from the HOA, a woman whose personality was perpetually etched in a thin, disapproving line, literally vaulting my 4-foot chain-link fence. Seriously, vaulting. She landed with an undignified grunt, clutching a clipboard like a holy relic, her usually pristine white sneakers scuffing the soft dirt of my K9 obstacle course. Brenda, or Karen as the neighborhood privately called her, was clearly operating at peak entitlement. I felt the sudden, hot rush of adrenaline mixed with pure, distilled exhaustion. Not today, Satan. Not when I was supposed to be reviewing the training logs for the new narcotics K9 unit. But here she was, standing on my property, unauthorized and already spoiling the mood. Mr. Vance, I hope you are aware this is a level 3 infraction. A level 3, she screeched, waving a pre-printed form at me like it was a royal decree. Her voice cut through the air, sharp and insistent, making the distant sound of the lawnmowers seem like a quiet, comforting hum. I took a slow breath, the scent of ozone and the damp earth from the morning dew filling my lungs. I needed to keep my cool. This was a test of patience, and Brenda was clearly aiming for a failing grade. Brenda, I said, my voice dangerously even, stepping off the porch and onto the grass. You jumped my fence. That's trespassing. That's a police matter, long before it's an homeowners association matter. Was that really necessary? She completely ignored the question, her eyes fixated on the obstacle equipment stacked neatly near the shed. The A-frames, the jump hurdles, the bite sleeves hanging on the wall. This equipment, it is unsightly. And the noise, Mr. Vance, the relentless, aggressive barking. It's a violation of Article 4, Section B, Subsection 9, excessive animal commotion. You are fined $500, effective immediately. She nearly shoved the fine into my hand, her face flushed crimson with self-importance. I glanced down at the fine. The reason cited was continuous high-decibel canine distress/aggression training in a residential zone. I stifled a laugh that would have certainly made her explode. Canine distress? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Brenda, I train Malinois and German Shepherds to find bombs and track fugitives for the county sheriff. They don't get distressed. They get focused. And they definitely don't commit animal commotion. I could feel the tension building in my chest, a tight knot of disbelief and anger. How can someone be so blind to reality? It was time for a quick reality check, a subtle shift in the atmosphere. I slowly turned my head toward the kennel runs, which were shielded from the street by a privacy hedge but were wide open to my yard. The air suddenly felt heavier. The low thump-thump of 4 massive tails belonging to K9 Blitz, bomb detection, K9 Aries, narcotics, K9 Maya, tracking, and my personal veteran, K9 Rook, apprehension, stopped simultaneously. For pairs of deep, intelligent, golden brown eyes locked onto Brenda. They hadn't made a sound, but the sudden absence of noise felt louder than any bark. Brenda, for the first time, seemed to notice the sheer mass of the animals watching her. She paused mid-sentence, the fervor draining out of her cheeks. Those things are far too large for this neighborhood, she stammered, pointing a trembling finger at the 400 pounds of coiled muscle staring her down. They look vicious. This is exactly what I mean. The danger. The menace. Her voice was starting to crack, but the entitlement was a tough habit to break. I need you to sign this acknowledgement of the fine, Mr. Vance, and then I will be reporting this breach of safety standards to the Homeowners Association Board. She clicked her pen, waiting. I shifted my weight, running a hand over my beard. I was done being polite. I looked her dead in the eye, and the tiny, almost imperceptible shake of my head was my final warning. Brenda, listen carefully. This entire yard, the fencing, the training equipment, the high-liability animals staring at you, is regulated under a special use permit with the county, required because I'm a contracted law enforcement trainer. I leaned in just slightly, lowering my voice so she had to strain to hear me, which was a clear act of dominance. And my K9s are not vicious, they are precise. You're standing 20 feet from 4 of the best working dogs in the state, and every single one of them has been trained to defend me, this property, and themselves. Then I saw it. The glint of panic in her eyes, mixed with a deeper, satisfying fear. She started backing away quickly, glancing nervously at the fence she had just climbed. It was the perfect moment. I inhaled deeply and, without taking my eyes off Brenda, I spoke 2 words, clear and sharp, in German, Sicher, Platz. The effect was instantaneous and electrifying. The low, heavy rumble that erupted from 4 deep chests was the sound of a contained earthquake. Blitz, Aries, Maya, and Rook did not move an inch, but their entire posture changed. Every muscle tautened, their lips curled just enough to reveal the tips of their canines, and the low, guttural warning growl, a sound trained to paralyze, filled the yard. It wasn't an aggressive sound designed to attack. It was a disciplined sound designed to contain and hold. The metallic tang of fear, her fear, was suddenly palpable in the air, overriding the smell of pine. Brenda froze, her clipboard clattering to the ground. Oh my God! Was she going to faint? She made a small, choked noise, her eyes darting from dog to dog, searching for an exit. They're going to attack! She shrieked, backing right into the A-frame. Clang! She stumbled, wildly trying to scramble back to the fence, forgetting she had jumped over it and not simply opened a gate. In her desperate rush, she tripped over the fine she had dropped and started yelling for help. That's when I noticed the secondary detail, the minor twist that truly sealed her fate. I picked up the fine from the grass. It wasn't my address. It was her own. The infraction was for unauthorized parking of a recreational vehicle, something she had been doing for months. She had been so panicked and eager to issue my fine that she'd grabbed her own notice by mistake. I looked at the fence, then at Brenda, now weeping hysterically and trying to crawl under the chain link. I heard the distant sirens. Someone must have heard the shrieks and called 911. Of course, they did. When 2 county patrol cars rolled up, one of them driven by Deputy Miller, who knew me well, the scene was set. Deputy Miller stepped out, saw me standing calmly with 4 perfectly behaved K9s now sitting silently at my heel, and a disheveled Brenda stuck halfway under a fence, weeping over her own RV fine. Liam? Training a new maneuver? Miller asked, barely suppressing a laugh. I simply handed him the fine she had dropped. No, deputy. Just dealing with an unauthorized entry. I believe Brenda here is facing an homeowners association fine for that RV, and I'd like to file a trespassing report. After all, breaking and entering is a level 3 infraction, isn't it? And my dogs are only trained to protect me and my property, which she just violated. The ensuing hour was an absolute masterclass in karma. The homeowners association president arrived, saw Brenda's blatant trespassing and the evidence of her own fine, and the board ended up fining Brenda heavily for violating safety and conduct rules, citing her reckless entry onto permitted private property. Brenda walked away, not with the triumph of bureaucratic entitlement, but with the bitter taste of defeat and the distinct, chilling memory of 4 highly specialized K9s obeying a word of German I doubt she'd ever forget. She had tried to weaponize paper against a man who weaponized discipline. The moral of the story? Sometimes, the loudest voices are the ones who forget that true power doesn't come from a clipboard, but from quiet, dedicated preparation and the respect you earn. Don't jump into a battle you haven't researched, especially when the other side has 400 pounds of highly trained justice standing by. Isn't it amazing how quickly the tide can turn?